The Vegetable Mareep of Kalos by Dinosaur Keeper. I love Pokémon. As soon as a new game gets released, I play it almost religiously. I became especially happy when I heard about X and Y, as they would be released simultaneously worldwide. Finally, a main series Pokémon game without the inconvenience of waiting months on end for a Western release. But I digress. Once I got my hands on Pokémon X, my new adventure in Kalos region began. I started out with a male Froakie named Kermit. 10 days after starting the game, I raised my whole team beyond level 80 before challenging the Elite Four and the Champion. When I had finished the initial game, I went about exploring areas I missed during my gameplay, as well as hoping to complete my Pokédex. And that's where things got weird. I battled a horde of Mareep on Route 12. When I returned to the overworld, a Pokéball had appeared on the battle site. When I picked it up, the message, "You obtained a Lamberry," appeared. I found that odd, because when obtaining a berry in X and Y, it's usually near a berry tree, and they're shown as tiny round berry-like item instead of a Pokéball item model. I checked the Lamberry, and as expected, it was found in the berry pocket. For some odd reason, when selecting the Lamberry, the cry of a Mareep was played, while all the other berries don't have any cries at all. The icon for the Lamberry looked like a yellowish cloud with small green leaves and stem attached. Curiously, I read the description. A berry often found near flocks of Mareep. If held by a Pokemon, it makes the Pokemon immune to electric attacks. When I read that, I thought that this could come in handy in future battles. I decided to go to the berry garden on Route 7, near Campfire Town, where I planted the berry and added water to the soil, resulting in another Mareep cry after watering the buried Lamberry. For about 3 or 4 days, I kept checking the bush that grew from the Lamberry. Unlike the other berry bushes, which were usually green-leafed, the Lamberry bush had yellow leaves and a blue stem, the same color scheme as a Mareep. It was also much bigger than the normal berry bushes, at least double or triple the size. When I attempted to harvest the newly grown berries, multiple Mareep cries were heard simultaneously. Then came the transition animation for a battle with multiple Pokemon. What appeared surprised me and made me feel a little sick. I recognized the battlefield scene from being similar to that of the Santaloon Forest, and the forest covering Route 20. However, rather than normal foliage, the trees were all the same color scheme as the Lamberry bush. In front of me was a central Lamberry bush, from which 5 Mareep were hung from the stems as if they themselves were the fruit of the bush. I sent out my Pyroar, Caesar, and attacked one of the Mareep that was hanging from the tree-like bush. Although I managed to bring the opposing Mareep's HP to 0, the normal fainting animation did not occur. Instead, the Mareep shriveled up, and during the animation, a weak, distorted cry was heard, along with the sound of cracking and crumbling of bones, along with the sound of stretching skin. The skin pulled tightly around the skull and leg bones, falling off its stem to the ground with a hard thud sound before disintegrating to dust. I was then met with the text, "Mareep has died." The color faded from my face when I saw what had transpired. I felt my lunch rising up in my stomach, but I managed to hold it in. The event reminded me of the story I had read a long time ago, but couldn't figure out what it was. I repeated the same process on each opponent until only one Mareep remained. I tried to capture it, like any wild Pokemon. I succeeded with the use of only one Pokeball. My team was already full, so the newly captured Mareep was sent directly to the PC. When I returned to the overworld, the Lamberry bush had not died off and vanished the way I would have expected it to do once berries had been harvested. Not only that, but more Lamberry bushes had sprouted in the soil patches throughout the entire garden. Mareep cries could be heard throughout the entire area. This was freaking me out. I decided to leave the garden and head to the Pokemon Center in Campfire Town to check up on the Mareep I had caught. I switched out to my Heliolisk, Nedry, for the newly caught Mareep, and checked out its stats. The Mareep itself appeared to be a bit withered and sickly. It also said that it was an electric grass type instead of the usual electric type. In addition, its HP bar showed that it had been damaged during the battle, and I didn't even attack it during the battle. Even if I did do damage to it during the battle, I'd expect its HP to be fully recovered, as it usually happens when newly caught Pokemon were sent to the PC box. It only had one move, Seed Flare, a move which I was sure Mareep couldn't learn. When I left the center, I noticed that every 10 steps the screen would glitch. It was much like as if Pokémon was poisoned. This is impossible, I thought to myself. Poison damage while walking in the overworld hasn't been in the game since it was last used in the 4th generation main game series. When I checked my party, my Mareep's health deteriorated. When checking his stats, the model had become more sickly and grotesque. Another 10 steps, and the Mareep's health was less than half its total HP, and looked even worse than before. I tried to give it a super potion, but it had no effect. The electric sheep's health just continued to deteriorate with every step. Suddenly, I met with an animation for Sweet Scent, though yellowish, rather than its normal pink. A text then followed. Mareep used Seed Flare. Mareep has died. I checked the stats, and the character model was now a skull next to a pile of withered wool with flies all around it. Its type had changed to Grass Ghost. Its status now says Dead. Now I was sure what these transpired events reminded me of. It's a myth called the Vegetable Lamb of Tartary, in which, like the Mareep in the game, sheep grew from a mysterious plant and slowly died when harvested. Did Game Freak finally want to add an event based on a rather dark myth? I was both creeped out and intrigued. When returning to the overworld, to my shock, I noticed yellow and blue sprouts appearing along the route, some of which had become fully fledged lamberry bushes. I tried to enter the grass to find other Pokémon, however I kept running into the same horrifying horde battles with the lamberry bushes with a flock of dangling Mareep. I managed to escape the battles, but every escape simply made way for another battle, and then another in constant succession. More and more Mareep cries flooded the speakers. The cries grew so loud and numerous that the background music was drowned out completely. At that point, the screen glitched horribly, and then I received a message. The save file had gone corrupt and is deleted. There I was. Hours of training my team gone to waste. All of it, gone. That strange in-game experience costed me it all. Once I snapped out of my utter disbelief, I hurried online to see if others had a similar experience with this event. Had others lost hours of progress due to this? Indeed, I found that I'd not been the only one. There were several other cases just like mine. So many that even Nintendo, even Game Freak had acknowledged it, though with no explanation as to why it occurred. Instead, they simply offered special patches to prevent it. I since restarted the game and begun rebuilding the team I lost. This time, I know never to pick up or plant a lamberry. I can resume normal gameplay now, but I'll never forget the invasion of the vegetable Mareep of Kalos. That was the vegetable Mareep of Kalos. Final thoughts? I want to start by saying that I actually like the idea of a crossover with the Vegetable Lamb of Tartary, however, it didn't really translate well to Pokémon. It actually translates into a pretty run-of-the-mill video game creepypasta. The player does some basic things that isn't normally in the game as an option, triggers weird events, player runs into a disturbing version of a Pokémon that dies, and fucked up things happen, ending in the game not working. I don't really have anything new to say about this that I haven't said about a dozen other stories. That's it for this creepypasta. Tune in again next Saturday when we tackle yet another video game creepypasta. If you want to write your own story, help peer edit a story, or even just read the stories early, check out the description where you'll find a link to the creepypasta section of my forum. You'll also find the link to every creepypasta reading I've done. If you're interested in keeping up on my blog posts, join the Facebook fan page linked below, and if you want to support me and what I do, check out my Patreon page in the description. Remember that if you want your story to be read on the show, you must stay active on your post on the forum, as well as read the forum rules. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, sweet dreams.